to tell you how many people I've interviewed over the years that say, I would love to date a Latino or a Spaniard. And I'm thinking, do you not know the difference? Maybe it's the movies, the whole Central Mediterranean branding, sunsets, wine, flamenco, Antonio Banderas. Or maybe it's that people still don't know the cultural difference between Spain and Latin America. Hence, they are on different continents. But either way, it's a very romanticized idea of what Spain is like. So if you're heading to Spain expecting, ole, the kind of over-the-top romanticized version of Spain, you're in for a rude awakening. Now, I have to make a very important disclaimer. Dating in Latin America also differs a lot, from Mexico to Colombia to Argentina. And obviously there are also regional differences in Spain. But my goal today is to break down what I found to be true overall. Let's get into it. And by the way, if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss future videos on cultural differences as they relate to dating and connection. Let's go. Let's talk about approach. So obviously it's not very common to meet people offline these days, but Spaniards typically meet people socially. This is especially true in their 20s when they all hang out in mixed groups. In Spain, things just kind of evolve. Now, that's great if you're a Spaniard, but if you're a foreigner who doesn't know anyone, who doesn't have any social circles, this might be super tough, especially because I find that Spain is one of the countries that is very hard to make friends. But this got me thinking, how does the approach actually happen here in 2025? How would you describe the dating scene in Spain?
Bad? But isn't the dating scene bad everywhere for women?
What makes it bad about Spain?
Men.
I think I was surprised moving to Spain because I thought the stereotype in my head of like, oh, Spanish men are gonna be so like romantic and so like forward, and that's not the case at all. Usually if you see a guy that is attractive at the bar, he's probably not gonna be the one to like come up to you and like initiate. If you do end up like kind of exchanging numbers, you're the one, at least in my experience, I'm like the one initiating that exchange.
I mean, I don't approach people at the street, right? But like in the club or something, they have a lot of attitude, I guess. When they, for whatever reason, they feel like, no, I don't want to be approached, they're gonna give you the strongest no possible ever, like, whereas girls from the north, they may be like, oh, I don't know, like, maybe you can talk to me.
I think it's a bit different if you're like talking to them like in a bar, like in a, in a nightclub or something, and you don't have like many friends in common. They can be a bit more straightforward there.
¿Tú conoces chicos por Bumble, Hinge?
Sí, Bumble, Hinge, ¿cómo es? Tinder, Field.
Todos.
Sí, todas. Tengo todas.
It's much easier here to just like socialize a lot, meet a lot of people, and then you meet someone and then it's on, right? I think that's much more leading to success here than approaching someone. With Spanish women, like if they like you, you will know instantly. And if they don't like you, there's nothing you can do. They choose who they want, and that's it.
The women here in Spain specifically are much more of the initiators, are much more forward, and the men kind of get this vibe that they could take it or leave it, and if it wasn't up for the women to like initiate it, then it probably wouldn't happen. I would say the 4 F's I always say they care about in priority. It's family, friends, football, and I don't know if I can swear on here.
Females.
Casual relationships with female.
I recently had a conversation with a Spanish guy from Sevilla and asked him what his ideal first date was. And he said, and I quote, going around and going, ha 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 ha. When I asked him, is that it? He said, yeah, I cringe at the idea of, acting as a man should. For him, it was all about being natural, laughing, and, seeing where things go. And having talked to a lot of Spanish men, that seems to echo all across the country. It's interesting because for them, the idea of playing the part, so to speak, is really, really cringy. It's more about going with the flow, being natural, having fun, and having things evolve naturally from there. If you're someone super chill, super casual, dating in Spain is probably going to work really, really well for you. But if you come from a country like the US, where dates are still more structured, then dating in Spain might be a little bit disappointing. Because let's face it, that kind of romance, most Spaniards would find it cringy. By the way, the one thing I hate so much about traveling is getting a SIM card. I've had so many issues that I'm never using a physical SIM card ever again. So now I just use an eSIM card, and the one I really, really genuinely love is Olafly. I've been using Olafly forever until they said, hey, let's work together. It's super, super easy to download, and you can essentially use it all over Europe or all over the region that you're traveling. So if you guys want to try Olafly, go to the link below.
I've been in a relationship with someone from Sevilla for the last year. One of the first things I noticed on our date was we got an Uber to take us to the restaurant. I'm so used to someone holding the car door open for me that I literally stood there like waiting for him to come to the car. And he just walked around to the other side. And like we actually had a conversation about it later, and he was like, well, yeah, like it's not necessary for me to hold the car door open for you. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, dude, it's not necessary, but that's like what I'm accustomed to, you know?
So in America, for example, it's like more common for like the guy to like initiate the date, you know, plan like, oh, we're gonna go here, and this is kind of like the itinerary for the night, even if it's something really simple, you know, but they at least have like kind of thought like this is what we're gonna do. And then obviously like most common to pay at the end of the night. Yeah. They kind of like text you a while and not be super like antsy to like get a date on the books. Let's meet up sometime for drinks, you know, and then sometime. So going on the date, it's like, oh yeah, let's just like go get coffee or go walk in the park or go get drinks, and it's like more again like me like suggesting some ideas of things that I would like to do.
Interesting. So you don't feel like there's a lot of effort put into it?
I don't feel like there's a lot of effort, and again, it might be like just a culture difference. I think they're very much more like go with the flow and kind of just let the night like unfold.
I hear that you guys like to go 50-50, very equal in that sense. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, you put it absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, my family always behaved in such a way, so it's natural for me. When I was dating someone from, I don't know, Russia or something, they expected me to pay for everything, and that really didn't feel right.
¿De dónde son?
De Valencia.
De Ucrania.
¿Y hace cuánto tiempo están juntos?
Casi un año.
¿Han notado diferencias culturales?
Muchas.
Sí, claro. Por ejemplo, con restaurantes, porque yo estoy acostumbrada cuando al principio, no digo para siempre, pero al principio hombres tienen que pagar, pero aquí es un poco diferente.
Yo siempre que voy al aeropuerto las recibo con flores. Cuando nos vamos a cenar también al principio sobre todo pago yo, hasta que llegó un momento que le dije, oye, ¿y
pero
si...?
no es cómodo para mí.
Claro, ¿y si pagamos a medias alguna cuenta? Y ahí pues sí que fue un momento de choque cultural. Aquí en Valencia, aquí en España no es lo habitual. Suele ser, algunas personas sí, otras personas no. A mí me gusta más o menos que si te quiero yo invitar, que me nazca de mí, que no sea como una obligación, pero para ella es como sí o sí.
Para ti, ¿qué es la primera cita perfecta?
La primera cita perfecta, pues pasártelo bien, reírte, quedar para tomar algo, para lo que sea, para hacer cualquier plan, pero pasártelo bien, estar a gusto.
¿Es importante que el hombre paga o no?
Lo de pagar a mí me da igual. Si paga, por ejemplo, a mí me mola porque la excusa es de la siguiente la pago yo. Entonces tienes una continuidad, pero si no, lo más equilibrado para mí sería como cada uno se paga lo suyo.
Si el chico dice, yo quiero pagar, por favor.
Pues genial, pues paga. Estupendo.
For me, the 50-50 thing, it's not like 50-50. In a sense, it's maybe like when you're with friends and you pay like for a round, and the next time, without saying anything, like there's a consensus of, okay, so I'm going to be paying for the next one.
What if a guy takes you out and he's like, look, I want to take you out to a really nice restaurant, he pays for it, and then you try to pay the next time and he says no?
Okay, so what I would do, honestly, is I would just fake I go to the bathroom and pay anyways. I feel like for Spanish women in general, like our mothers tend to teach us from a very young age to don't depend economically from anybody, you know, like just have your own money, do your own thing, and if you meet someone and you connect with them, you are partners.
Women don't expect you to pay for them here.
No, absolutely not. They don't expect you to pay, but they also don't offer you a lot of like emotional commitment from the start. Like it goes really slow, I guess.
Dicen que los españoles normalmente no pagan la primera cita, ¿verdad o no?
Eso es mentira. Eso es mentira. Hay que pagar siempre.
En Andalucía tal vez no.
En Andalucía también se paga, por si acaso.
En serio, entonces tú pagas la primera cita.
Yo pago la primera y a veces hasta la décima.
¿En serio?
Sí, depende un poco.
Wow, interesante.
Depende un poco de cómo estés con la chica.
Hombres españoles, ¿sí pagan la primera cita o no pagan la primera cita?
Nosotros somos de otra generación. Pagamos la primera cita. Y la segunda igual también. Igual hoy en día yo creo que es diferente.
¿Quieres tomar algo?
Ahora que dicen eso sí. One of my ways of measuring chivalry is very simple. I'm always with very heavy luggage when I travel, and I always note how many people, if any, offer to help me with my luggage. And I'm sorry to say, but from all the times that I've been to Spain, which is at least 9, and I've been all around the country, not one person has offered to help me. Actually, that's a lie. I had one person offer to help me, and that was a Latin American woman. And honestly, it's not just a man to woman thing. It's kind of a kindness in general. Here, people don't really say, excuse me, sorry, thank you when you let them pass in front of you. They just go. I was in the store the other day and I saw a Spanish man and an Asian woman, and they were both heading towards the cash register at the same time. And the man ran up to the cash register and said, haha, I was here first. The woman had to back off, obviously. This kind of thing wouldn't happen in North America, in Canada specifically, and that's because it's an obvious thing to let someone go ahead. So I suppose there's not really a lot of surprise when I hear that Spanish men are not big on chivalry. I wanted to get a sense of how both Spaniards and foreigners see this lack of chivalry. Is chivalry really dead in Spain?
A mí en lo personal me parecen que les falta un poco bastante madurar y son muchas cosas que a mí no me gustan, tanto en que les falta un poco de caballerosidad. Mi dinero es mi dinero y tu dinero es tu dinero.
The gentleman thing is really not a thing here, at least in my opinion. If you see a guy that's really like gentleman-y and he's always telling you like all these beautiful things, you're always going to be thinking like, oh, he's definitely off, like there's something off about him.
So in the United States, I think people are a lot more maybe romantic. I don't know if that's the right word to use.
Gentlemen.
Yeah, but in the same breath, like I do feel like here, the way that they act is more real. Like it's not as staged.
They are very sassy. They know what they want, they know what they don't want, and they tell you very clearly and in a very fun way to them.
It's like they don't have any filter, you know, but like in a very funny, like cute way, you know, for the most part.
Si podrían explicar cómo es salir con mujeres españolas, ¿cómo es?
Muy difícil, muy difícil, muy difícil. Las mujeres españolas, pasión.
Ole, ole, ole.
El toro español lo lleva la mujer española.
Está enamorado,
que no. Pasionales, con ganas, con energía, con fuerza.
No querían salir con una chica que sería más como, ay, sí, no. Así no.
Que tenga carácter.
So you prefer that over someone being like, ay, papito, la 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 la.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, certainly.
More laid back.
Tu hombre perfecto sería
Divertido, independiente, romántico.
que te compra flores,
Sí, por supuesto.
regalos.
Regalos me da igual, pero detalles, amor, cariño.
Spain has a very strong feminist movement, but it's different from, say, Sweden. Spain was under Franco's dictatorship until 1975, and up until this point, women needed men's permission to do practically anything. They were treated like dependents, on the same legal level as the minors or mentally ill. So when feminism finally arrived to Spain, it didn't come in quietly like Sweden, where feminism is as exciting as recycling. It came up fast and furious. Decades of pent-up frustration exploded into this vocal, radical movement. Women here are very comfortable and very vocal about being the ones to take care of themselves, and that, you know, also translates into taking the lead and paying the bill and all those things that, you know, make them feel strong and capable. But in my humble opinion, this has also done something to make the man a lot more passive. Because let's be honest, men adapt to what women expect of them. So if the woman is like, don't do this, I've got this, I don't need you to do this, the man's response will usually be, cool, I won't. By the way, if you find this video interesting and you're interested about dating in Spain or dating in Southern Europe or dating in Western Europe, I've created guides that are highly, highly detailed, from first dates to the relationships to everything you need to know about the dating scene in each European country. Go check them out. Now, let's get into the big question. How do Spaniards actually approach commitment? And is Spain a frustrating place for women trying to find a relationship? The numbers are interesting. About 40% of Spanish adults are single, and the average age to get married is 36 for women and 38 for men, one of the highest in Europe. A big part of it obviously comes down to the living situation. A lot of people live with their parents well into their 30s, partly because of the economic reasons. It's, you know, really hard to find a job, it doesn't pay very well, and partly because it's culturally okay. And this of course delays everything, you know, moving in together, engagement, having kids. You could be dating someone for months and years and still not be living together. There's also much less pressure to get married in general. It's all about the let it flow vibe. What I've heard is that Spanish guys kind of like to go with the flow and don't like to put labels on things. Tell me about your experience.
That's pretty much exactly it. I feel like they're very slow burn with commitment. I'm used to guys in the United States like wanting to put a label on things a little bit quicker. That's something that has been a little tough for me, because I'm more accustomed to being like, okay, what are we? And he's very much in like the no pasa nada attitude and way of life.
How long have you guys been together for?
Over a year.
Okay, and then how long long did it take for him or for both of you to have the conversation and say, okay, are we dating?
To be honest, I think if I had never brought up the conversation, we may have never had it. It was still another maybe 6 or 7 months before we decided to like solidify our relationship.
They tend to be not communicative at all. They tend to always say like, go with the flow, yeah. They don't really want to tell you what they are on about because they are not thinking about anything serious at all.
Commitment takes a while.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, sometimes you hit it off very strongly with someone and then you know it's right. But for the 95% of times, yeah, it doesn't happen. As far as I've seen in Spain, they don't take dating that seriously. 95% of times it's just like people meet in a club, they're a bit drunk, maybe they've been friends for a while and like they have some sexual tension going on and like they just release it in the club and that's it.
Maybe because the housing crisis and all these things, they don't want to get serious at all. So they tend to be like, oh, I'm just looking for fun. You're balding and you're 30. Maybe you shouldn't be looking for fun. You should be looking for something serious.
En España a lo mejor te puedes pasar 4 meses quedando con una chica y aún no sois novios. Por lo que he vivido yo con ella, yo tampoco tengo una experiencia con chicas ucranianas, solo con ella. Al poco tiempo ya nos veíamos como una pareja.
¿Cuánto tiempo lleva que tú dices a esa persona, eres mi novia?
Yo creo que eso no se dice, eso se siente. Con los gestos y cómo interactúas y cómo estás con esa persona, tú ya sabes si es pareja o no.
¿Tú cuando sales con una chica eres exclusivo al principio o no?
Si la persona merece la pena, sí. Si de primeras piensa que no, realmente tú ya no sabes que no va a tener más duración esa relación. Simplemente va a ser pues una noche o una amiga con derechos.
Sí.
To be honest, I'm really like a very, ¿cómo se dice? Emotionally unavailable person, like. Okay. So
for the first maybe few weeks, you don't like really talk about it, and then you maybe, depending on how much time you're spending together, how strong the connection is, you might start talking about it.
What about moving in together? Is there not you? I feel like the Spanish guys have a little bit of the mama boy syndrome.
Definitely. Definitely. People in general, I don't feel like it's just a guy's thing. They tend to be more familiar, so they are usually used to being put first, and they bring that into the dating scene, which I don't think is really good because they don't tend to prioritize the people that they are meeting.
Me casé en 5 años.
Ah, en 5 años.
Pero me casé con 40 y pico, ¿no? 40 y pico años.
Ah, ok.
O sea, tarde.
Yo me casé 2 veces, pero depende de la mujer. Puede ser inmediato o puede ser distinto.
¿Qué piensan de los hombres de hoy?
Poco compromiso.
At this point in our relationship, we need to either take the next step and make things more serious, or I need to take the route that's easier for me and move back to the US. The ball is kind of in his court because I've always been the one that's like been a step ahead in the relationship. They have this thing called a prueba de hecho. It's just saying you're like in a partnership. Basically, that would get me a work visa. To me, that's easy and it's obvious. Like, I know he loves me, but that piece of commitment is so hard for him to agree to. And I think it's part of his culture too, because we've only been together a year. It hasn't really been that long. Where's the emotion? Like, where's the feeling? Like, where's the I just want to be with you, like I love you so much, like we'll obviously make this work. You know, I've talked to my other girlfriends that I've dated in Spain. I think it's very common for them to spend maybe years in a relationship before they commit to that level. I feel like Spanish men are so like in the present and living in the moment that they don't think ahead as much as maybe I do, or people from the United States.
Yo me considero romántica. Me importa la emoción, me importa el sentimiento, me importa la mirada y compartir el momento.
¿Es complicado encontrar esto con los chicos aquí?
Sí, es complicado, sí. Porque la mayoría es solo sexo. Si tienes una parte romántica, aparte del sexo, por mí es genial, pero falta esa parte.
When for you is a good time, let's say, to say, okay, we're exclusive, we're together?
So I don't want to be stereotypical, but for me, any day is a good day to commit if you feel like the magic's there and you don't want to look for anyone else. If I'm meeting someone and I feel like we could work out and I see potential, I just completely stop meeting other people until I figure out if that's a person I'm interested in. If that's working for me, why would I look for anybody else?
¿Quieres casarse?
Quiero casarme, me gustaría casarme, sí. Siempre he querido casarme.
Oh yeah, of course. I love the idea of marriage. And I really want to have children in the future. But if I don't find anyone that's like that person for me, I don't mind bringing my own children into the world and just raising them myself.
Marriage is something that I think he might not want in his life. I think that amount of commitment, it would take a long time to get to something like that in our relationship. I do think that goes along with like the slow burn of commitment in Spain, whereas like marriage just naturally becomes the next step when you're in the US and you've been dating for a couple of years. Here, it's more common for that to be off the table.
¿Quieres casarse?
Yo sí.
¿Hijos?
Sí, coño. Hijo depende. En Andalucía, o sea, yo no sé, también por un poco temas religiosos, pero más por el evento y la celebración con los amigos y la familia.
Yo divorciado.
¿Divorciado?
Divorciado.
Casado. Casado.
Mal casado.
Es verdad que los hombres españoles son infieles.
En líneas generales no. Habrá de todo, pero en líneas generales no.
¿Y nos compara con los sudamericanos? No.
¿Qué piensan?
Somos fieles, ellos no.
Something else that I think is very culturally different than the US is how like physically intimate Spanish people are in general. That's something that I've really had to get used to because kissing, hugging each other, like that is a normal part of a Spaniard's daily life. Seeing my boyfriend be very like physically intimate with maybe other women is difficult.
Aquí en España, o por lo menos yo, soy muy bromista, cojo el micro, y ella un día me dijo, Marc, ¿qué somos? ¿Novios o amigos? Dice, ¿y por qué me hablas a veces como una amiga? Porque a lo mejor le gasto una broma.
Tengo otra amiga ucraniana que estaba con un chico. Él dice, ¿qué pasa, mi gordita o algo de eso?
Una broma. ¿Qué pasa, gordita? Yo no, mi amigo le dijo, ¿qué pasa, gordita?
Es una amenaza porque ella tiene cuerpo ideal.
Claro, decir aquí gordita, gordita, ¿cómo estás, gordita? Es algo cariñoso.
Sí.
I feel like a lot of the conversations that Spanish people have are very surface level sometimes. I'm someone that likes to go a lot deeper and like really get into like the nitty-gritty emotions, and that's something that can be really difficult for him, and I think Spanish people in general.
When I have conversations with people, especially men in Spain, it does seem like the conversations just are really like superficial and surface level in the sense of like when I would try to like kind of probe deeper about like what are your like desires for your life and your goals and what do you think about this, even if they do I feel like have adequate English, they don't really like talk about it or like, oh, I don't know, like I haven't really thought about that. It just seems like kind of very like everything's fine. I'm kind of content with my life and what I'm doing now and don't really have any desire to kind of think outside of that.
Naturally, because of like their slow-paced lifestyle, they just really don't think about that kind of stuff until it's necessary to. That's something that's really tough in our relationship. The US is more success-driven, whereas here there's much more of a importance on like enjoying your life and like enjoying the social aspect of your life. Like when I was working a full-time job in the United States, I maybe saw my friends once a week on the weekend to get dinner or something. Whereas in Spain, my boyfriend is out with his friends every single day. Like there's always that time for them to like connect and be social no matter what their job is, no matter what their situation is.